cleaning up to do here, Ms. Jones, and writing up the order. Can you grab that real quick just to make it easy? Ask them directly to do it. Now some of you might be like, Larry, I'm new at this. I'm still trying to memorize the recommendation approach. I don't know if I've got the confidence to ask that. Just do it. It's not that hard. It's not that big a deal. Just ask. Oh, if you ask with confidence, guess what? About, I don't know, 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, 6 to 9 people are going to do. They're going to get it out. They'll do it for you. But you got to ask the right way. So you might want to also give them a reason to do it. And that is, not only is it going to make it easier, but I'm going to be here a while. So if this isn't written in your approach, I would jot in, hey, Ms. Jones, you know, the last sentence says, thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. I got to clean up my mess now and you know, write up the order and everything. It's going to be a few minutes. Hey, you know what most people do, Ms. Jones, just to make it easier? Is they just grab out their address book or cell phone because it just makes it easier for them. You know, I'm going to be here a little while anyway. Do you mind doing that real quick and just grab that out? It's going to be hard for them to look at you and say no. All right? So real quick, thanks a lot, blah, 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 last sentence. I'm going to be here a little while because I got to clean up my stuff and write up the order. Okay? You can say a few minutes, whatever. You know what a lot of people do? Why? Why? Because it makes it easier for them. They say, just grab out a cell phone or address book so they can just jot something down. You know, I'm going to be here a little while anyway. Do you mind doing that real quick? And you can say, for me. Low eyebrows. Right? And you know what? They'll probably do that. By the way, guys and gals, it's not hard for them to give you 10 to 15 if they get that out. Now, once you start averaging 10, I would start asking for 15 to 20. Once you start averaging 15, I would start asking for 20 to 25. That's the highest I got to as a sales rep. After a while, I had to develop skills. I had to develop confidence. But I remember I had some old lady. She's probably about 82 years old, probably too old. I shouldn't have even seen her. And I remember she gave me 31 recommendations. And she wasn't exactly a social butterfly. You know what I'm saying? And I said, you know what? If she can get out her address book, back then we didn't have cell phones, you know, I'm kind of old. If she can get out her address book and write down 31 names and numbers for me, anybody can give me that. And so I started averaging. I started using the stuff that I'm teaching you and stuff I learned. And I got to a point where I was averaging 17 to 18 recommendations per client written down. Literally. Written down. Like if I got 12 or 14, that was bad. Because I kept trying to push the envelope higher. Some reps get to 10, they're averaging 10, and they think, well, I'm good. Why not try to push the envelope? Why not try to get better? Why not try to get to 15? Does that make sense? You can do that, by the way. So start with asking for 10 to 15, then ask 15 to 20, and then I got to a point I was asking for 20 to 25. Now, I had to get good at handling the, what? I can't think of that many. And you know what, guys and gals, I'm going to tell you right now, I had a lot of clients tell me that still gave me 17 or more. All right? So how do you handle that? Well, the first thing you want to do is put them at ease. Put them at ease, right? So tell me, what? I can't think of that many. Somebody say that.
I can't think of that many people.
Oh, no problem, Brian. I understand. I mean, that sounds like it's really hard. It sounds like a lot. No big deal at all. And it's probably easier than you think, though. Just put down as many as you can. No big deal. And then keep going with the approach right away. You know, I'm not looking for anybody you think will buy. Just people might take a look. Hey, the way the sponsorship program works is, right? So I can't think of that many. No problem. I understand. It seems like a lot. You know, it's actually a little bit easier than it sounds. So, but no big deal. Just put down as many as you can. But the way the sponsorship, then you'd say, but I'm not looking for people, think would buy. Just people might take a look. Or just continue exactly where you left off in the approach. All right. Does this make sense to everybody? Yes? Okay. Is it hot in here? On the video, you're like, what? No, it's actually hot in here. I think because these guys are selling so many plates, man, things are heating up, but... Yes, and fuego. All right. So you guys got the idea, right? All right. So, that's how you handle that objection. Now, you might say, well, Larry, how do you handle some other objections? I can teach you, and I had some experience with it, but I'm going to tell you right now, if they like you, and you ask with a lot of confidence, you're not going to get many other objections. Occasionally they'll write down 3 or 4 or 5 and stop. But I'm going to teach you how to handle that before you get it too. Here's the key. You're cleaning up your stuff. You're polishing off your Cutco, right? Polishing it off. Not acting like you're paying attention, but you're really paying attention when she doesn't think you're paying attention, but you look out your peripheral vision and you are paying attention. And she's scrolling through her address book or through her cell phone and she starts skipping people. Do not wait till she gets to X, Y, or Z. Stop her on B. Don't wait till X, Y, Z. Stop her on like B or C. Okay? Now, I'm going to take the blame for that. I'm going to apologize to her. So she's flipping through her address book or she's scrolling through herself. Oh, hey, Miss Jones, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep in mind, I'm only looking for anyone who you think might just take a look. They can always say no on the phone. No big deal. If that's not part of your repertoire, I would jot that down. When they start skipping names. Because almost everybody can give you 10, 15, 20, 25 names and numbers. If they write down everybody. In other words, it's not that they don't know the people. It's just they're qualifying people in their mind of who they think is going to be more interested or who they think might what? Buy. So you want to stop her, right? Don't stop her and say, Miss Jones, I already told you. No. You want to be real nice. You want to be like, oh, I'm sorry. And I get a little puppy dog look. I'm sorry, Miss Jones. Keep in mind, I'm not looking for anybody you think would buy. Just anyone who might take a look. And then what's the key phrase? Might take a look. And then after that, they can always say no on the phone. And then another key phrase, no big deal. Hey, they can always say no on the phone. No big deal. No problem at all. Just put down, and then you got to get her to action. Just put down to anybody. See, guys, this product is so phenomenal. We know they're going to love the product. Yes or yes? Yes. We know they're going to love the product. Everybody loves it. They're going to use it every day the next 30, 40 years. You guys, every day. Guaranteed forever. But most people are not excited about the product over the phone, especially if they don't know about the product on the phone. True? Can you guys give me a true? True. All right. So we know that, right? We know that. So here's the deal. You got to let Mrs. Jones know, just anybody. They can say no on the phone, no big deal. Just put down to anybody. All right? And then thank her again. Thank you so much, Miss Jones. Thank you so much. And then I start cleaning up and writing up the order again. Now, why do you write up the order first? Because if you clean everything up, it looks like you're done, you're ready to go. If she's ever going to town writing down names, even if your next appointment's coming up, unpack and repack your stuff. Meaning clean it up again. Polish the knives again. Spit shine them if you have to. Whatever you got to do. Alright? Especially if she's a really good client. Right, now, let's talk about how do you see better clients and how do you get better recommendations. Okay? Well, you have to ask for it. Alright? You have to ask for it. You might say, Larry, my clients aren't that, they don't have money, they're not that good. Well, do you ask specifically for good clients? No, you don't say, hey, Ms. Jones, give me some good ones. Hey, Ms. Jones, I want people with money. Right? No, you don't say that. But here's what you do. No matter how many recommendations they give you, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4, or 15 or 20. By the way, Mrs. Jones, that old lady, Miss Jones, 82-year-old, she didn't give me 31 recommendations off the top of like right away. She gave me like 15 or 20, and then I got her to write down some more. And then she was up to around 25 or 30, and then I got her to write down some more. Right, do you see what I'm saying? So no matter how many they give you, here's how A, you get more, and B, you get good ones. You ready? They hand you the recommendation form. That's all I can think of. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Thank you so much. The first thing I'm going to do is show appreciation, guys, because I appreciate her helping me out. Even if she gave me 2 or 3, that's still 2 or 3 more than I had. Someone will say, hey, thank you so much, Miss Jones, for helping me out. I really appreciate it. Hey, Miss Jones, I was just curious, and then I slide this back to her. And I say, and I put the pen back, and I say, hey, Miss Jones, I was just curious, is there any way you might be able to give me just a couple more? Like, for example, your neighbors, the one that lives over here in the brick house here, or the one that lives over in the White House, Obama over here, right? See, what you want to do is you want to take a visual, or even jot it down if you have trouble remembering, of each house on each side and the one across the street. Right? That's the go-to ones right away. And she might say, oh, I already gave you all those. Oh, okay, thank you so much. Hey, Ms. Jones, how about anybody who's a doctor or a nurse? Can you think of just one or two doctors or nurses you haven't thought of? Or they might say, oh, I already gave you them over there in the brick house. Oh, okay, cool. How about the White House over here? Who's that? Oh, Barack Obama. Or how about the little greenhouse across the street? You know, Mr. Robert Plant or whatever, right? In the greenhouse, right? You got the idea, right? In other words, so you ask for both neighbors and then across the street, right? Then I always go to doctors and nurses. Now you might say, why start with neighbors? Because even though they may have written them down, usually they haven't written down all three, but they know all three. Most people know who lives across the street and who's on each side. True? So that's where I start. Then I go to something else that's pretty easy. Most people know of a doctor or nurse. So I'll say, oh, okay, thank you so much for those three that you already wrote down. Hey, Ms. Jones, is there any chance, that's a good phrase, is there any chance you could think of just one doctor or nurse that you could jot down for me? Just one that you haven't written down? The key to getting more recommendations is getting them to write down one or two. Once they write down one or two, you can get more. All you have to do is time it. When they finish with the one or two, see if they write another one. If they stop for a second or two, give them a couple seconds, and then throw out another category. I'm going to give you my top 5 to 7 categories. Ready? I don't throw them all out at once, right? I do one at a time. Neighbors, then doctor or nurse, then I wait, they write down a name or two, and then I wait a second or two to see if they write down more. And then I say, hey, Ms. Jones, how about anybody who is an attorney, or anybody that owns their own business? Maybe anybody you didn't think about who really loves to cook. Right? I start with attorney and owns their own business. They're like, nah. Then I'll go on to, how about anybody who loves to cook or really loves nice things? Right? Now, an attorney or owns their own business, if they're like, then I wait. I don't go to cooks and likes nice things. So you got to read them as you're doing this. Does that make sense? By the way, guys, take an extra 10, 20 minutes and get good at this. It will revolutionize your business. All right. After cooks or likes nice things, I say, how about anybody who's a teacher? Or any of your children's friends' parents? See, because they probably wrote down their friends and coworkers, right? But not their children's friends' parents a lot of times. All right? So those are a few different categories, probably 4 or 5 there. If they go to church, and I know they go to church, I might say, hey, anybody else you can think of that maybe goes to church? Right? If you know they're in any clubs or groups. You mentioned you play tennis, Miss Jones. Anybody you play tennis with that maybe you haven't written down? All right, so you're just throwing out categories. All right? If their children play sports, how about any of your Billy's teammates or Susie Q's teammates or whatever? All right, you guys with me? So some of those. So I get some more leads. Usually you can get anywhere from 2 or 3 extra to 5 or 10 extra from what they originally gave you. Okay? Then, and by the way, you notice what I asked for, didn't I? Doctors, attorneys, people in their own business, people cook a lot, people like nice things. If you're not asking for that, you can't complain if you're not getting it. All right. Then, ladies and gentlemen, you need to qualify the recommendations. Qualify. And we'll end with this. We'll end with qualifying. Oh, I'm going to teach you one extra little nugget too. We'll end with qualifying and a little bonus nugget. All right? Little bonus nugget. All right. With qualifying, Let's say they gave you Bob and Sue Jones. Number 111111. All right. If that's the case, and let's say they gave you, 10 recommendations. I'm going to qualify every one. After I qualify the first couple, though, what's the customer going to be able to do? Spit out the info to me real quick, right? And it's going to go real quick. So it's going to seem like it's a long process. It's really not. To qualify 10 recommendations probably takes 2 minutes, maybe 3, maybe 4 at the most. All right? So what am I going to ask? First thing I'm going to do is say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, how do you know Bob and Sue? Oh, they're friends of ours? Oh, cool. Is both of them, or oh, Sue's a friend of yours? Oh, cool. How'd you guys become friends? Oh, you went to college together at State? Oh, okay, cool. So I put F-R-I-C-O-L-L-S-T, if she was a friend from college at State. See, when I call Sue, I don't want to say, hey, I was over to see a friend of yours. I want to say, hey, I was over to see Mary Smith. Yeah, she mentioned you guys were friends back at State when you guys went to State together. No way, that's cool. You guys still keep in touch. That's awesome. Then it's personal. It's very friendly, very personal. It's almost like a friend of a friend now. Rather than, I was just over to see your friend. By the way, the other thing you need to do is you need to assume, you can't assume they're just friends. They could be sisters. You want to make it a tough phone call. Say, hey, I was over to see your friend, Sue. Oh, you mean my sister? Hello, I'm an idiot. All right, you guys see what I'm saying? All right, so friends. And how, so first thing if you're taking notes, friends, how do you know them? And then if they say friends, how were your friends? And just shorthand it. I don't care what initials you use. Maybe it's friends from church at First Baptist. Oh, okay, friends from church. Oh, where do you go? Oh, First Baptist. Cool. Friends, C-H-U-R-B-A-P-T. Real quick. All right, does that make sense? Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if they both work. Oh, do you know, does Bob and Sue both work? Or just Bob? Or just Sue? Or, oh, just Bob? Okay. I put a W by who works. I want to know if I can call Sue during the day. All right? Morning phone time cranks, by the way. 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Great phone time. If you have a 9 o'clock class, try making calls 8 to 8:30. You'll be surprised how many people you reach. Especially if you know she's not working. You might be like, 8:30 in the morning, what? Housewives are usually up a lot earlier than that. Especially if they have little kids. Okay, next thing I want to know. You could ask what they do for a living if you want. That's fine. I did sometimes if I had a little extra time. If I was rushed for time, I wouldn't. But sometimes they volunteer. Oh yeah, he's a doctor. Oh really? Okay. All right, do you see what I'm saying? I'm going to jot that down. If they volunteer what they do, I'm going to jot that down. All right, does that make sense? Okay. I like to find out whereabout they live. Do you know what town they live in, or oh, Apex, or Raleigh, or whatever. So I might jot that down. All right, Raleigh. All right. I like to do that because once you, God bless you, have a couple hundred recommendations. I don't want to go Raleigh, Durham, Apex. I want to localize. And the goal, by the way, is to get a couple hundred good, fresh recommendations built up. That's the goal. If you're under 100, you don't have enough. If you have 100, you're okay. But get to a couple hundred. And make like 50 of them really good. All right, does that make sense? Like 50 to 70 star recommendations. All right. So, what do? Okay, key question now. Key question. If you were me, would you see them both together or just her? If they say just her, I underline her name. And I leave it at that. If they say both together, I underline both their names. If they say I don't know, it doesn't matter, I leave them both blank. Guys, if they say you don't want him there, he's a cheapskate, she spends money all the time, especially on this stuff, she'd love it. I'm underlining her name. And I'm calling her during the day, and I'm setting up the appointment during the day. Because he works. And I don't want him there. I might even go back and ask Mary, hey, do you know if Bob works during the day all the time? Or I might find out when he works. Right? They might say, oh, she can't spend a dime without him. You got to see them both. I'm not going to see her during the day then. It's an evening or weekend appointment. And I'm going to make sure, in this case, when I'm on the phone, what am I going to make sure of? Bob's there. Most reps don't do this, guys. This is little things that make a difference. All right? And a lot of times they say it doesn't matter. I just leave them blank. I try to get them both if I can, and if I can't, whatever. All right. Any questions on that? Last thing is, star in your recommendations. If they gave me 10, I'm going to say, hey, Ms. Jones, if you were me, which 3 would you see first? That's a nice, tactful, professional way of saying, hey, who's most likely to buy? If they gave me 7, I'm going to ask for 2 to 3. If they gave me 10, I'm going to ask for 3. If they gave me 15, I'm going to ask for about 4.